Severe flooding has also led to the temporary suspension of operations at 5 ports of entry as announced by the Border Management Authority's Commissioner in Dr. Michael Masiapato. The affected ports include Stockpoort, Makgobistad, Bray, Groblersbridge and Pontdrift, with officials and personnel even requiring emergency evacuations in some cases. While operations have resumed at the Derdepoort, at least travellers and commercial operators are being urged to try and find alternative routes. To discuss the impact of these closures and the response, let's bring in Peter Mphilo. He's the Deputy Assistant Commissioner with the BMA. In fact, he's the regional commander of the affected ports and joins us now via our video link. Great to have you on the program, sir. Thanks very much indeed for making time. In your statement from earlier today, you say that Stockport is completely surrounded by water. It doesn't seem that this is something that could be resolved anytime soon.
Good afternoon to you and your viewers. Indeed, you are correct. The heavy rain resulted in the floods that unfortunately affected five of our ports. But perhaps to just update you and your viewers, out of Groblersbridge, Stockport, Pontdrift, Bray, and also Makgobistad. Makgobistad has now resumed operations this morning, because the water level and the river flow, fluctuates, So in Makgobistad now, operations are now has resumed. With regard to Stockport, indeed, what I'm saying is correct. The port is closed to have temporarily suspended the operations due to flooding. If you have been in the port, just before the port, it's kind of a low-lying area, so the water before the port, around the port, and after the port, the port itself, we have a bridge. So that bridge, you cannot even see the bridge. The bridge is completely submerged. It's for that reason that we had to evacuate our officials from the port, including that of SABC and other support staff. We had to opt for EMS in Limpopo, which they assisted us very well in evacuating our staff. As it is now, the port operations remained, as suspended, including Bray, Pontdrift, and the Groblersbridge. You will remember, I think a month ago, if not 2 months, we also reported the flooding of Groblersbridge. It is the same. The water level has risen to a level where it is no longer safe for officials to operate. However, we have advised the port users to use alternative ports, Stockpoort, Fontaine, Ramatlabama, and Bedbridge, particularly the cargo trucks. Those that travel for commercial reasons are advised to use those ports, as I've mentioned.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to ask you next, Assistant Commissioner. I mean, we've been here before, and my question was really going to be around whether you reckon the infrastructure is the issue at places like Groblersbridge, where you've mentioned there's been flooding before, or is the problem here just the sheer volume of the water that's been received as a result of these heavy downpours?
Yeah, look, we've inherited the port infrastructure and the locations as they are. And as we have been saying, unfortunately, some of our ports are situated on the low-lying area, and it makes them to be very vulnerable during the heavy rain seasons. But we were engaging with Botswana and then, of course, through South African government to look at alternative to relocate the port. But we'll remember that taking such decisions, it needs a study, an agreement, and whether the Botswana's government will also agree for us to move the port. But those discussions are ongoing. We're hoping that soon we'll then come back with the positive feedback, particularly when it comes to Groblersbridge. But it is the historical legacy that we have inherited, and in responding to an act of nature, heavy rains, unfortunately, we have to close or suspend rather the port operation for safety reasons, including the safety of the travelers as well.
Fair enough. The ripple effects must be quite extensive, excuse the pun, because I'm thinking now, if, for example, you have a port where the water is completely surrounding the infrastructure, you may have very well had damage to your operating tools. You let me know what that is. And, of course, there's concerns around backlogs, potentially, because of the halting of these operations.
Yes, you are correct. We will share with you the damages to the port infrastructure, but we can only do that after the flooding, unfortunately. But the other loss talks to what we lose as a country in a form of a revenue and the money that traders will not be able to make. As you know, that cargo traders trade, between countries. So that, although it's in the domain of customs, but we will have a huge loss as a country from the port, from the side of the port damage infrastructure, and the loss from the business side.
Fair enough. Oh, thanks very much indeed for speaking to us about these issues. We'll certainly keep tabs on the way forward, but for now we appreciate the time. Peter Mphilo is the Deputy Assistant Commissioner with the Border Management Authority. Once again, thanks very much indeed.